And let's offer you another scenario, one that we may have heard just recently with one of our clients. You have a bargaining unit, a group of employees within the operation that is unionized. Their contract has expired, perhaps a month ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. Now the employees are sitting here saying, we have a contract that's expired, we have no existing contract in place. Where do they stand as far as their legal rights to decertify now?
Well, and it also depends on Dan. If there is a month-to-month extension, there may be a day-to-day extension. Normally that's the case during a strike. And if there's a month-to-month extension, then there's nothing they can do. If there's a day-to-day extension, there's nothing they can do because the contract is the bar to the certification. So even if it's on a day-to-day basis, they cannot. There's nothing they can do. Only when in my experience, only when the company realizes that they're more than likely going to have to go on strike and that they have to start playing hardball is will they suspend the contract and there is no protection. Okay? So once again, if they're negotiating, more than likely the company's going to extend that contract month to month, day to day. Usually the only time that they get ready to do that in contract negotiations is when, in my experience, is when they're getting ready to go on a strike and they just throw the hatchet down and we're gonna suspend everything and there's no longer a day-to-day or month-to-month extension of the contract and there's no protection, so the company can pretty much has carte blanche of what it wants to do. That's the only time that they can do it. But at that point in time, more than likely you're going out on strike.
Well, I guess again, Rick, and for you too, Ahmed, we spoke about that 1 year bar. I guess I'm referring to the contract bar where, the employees, do they have a window of opportunity to even file a petition to consider the idea of voting for decertification if their employer and the union go ahead and they renew the contract automatically every 3 years?
Dan, no. I mean, because there's no period there's no gap.
There's no expiration.
There's no expiration.
So as long as there's no expiration, that window of opportunity doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
So really, again, we are learning here in layman terms, once you're voted in, you may be in for good.
Well, right. I mean, and there's a lot of contracts that will state, and I've dealt with this a lot of times in the past, that you have to file in whatever period of time. It might be 6 months, it might be 7 months. You have to let us know in a certain amount of time, and it might be 6 months prior to the expiration of the contract that there has to be a request sent that with a desire that we want to renegotiate the contract at the expiration. If that's the case, then they have the same rules and that they would normally have. But if the company does not send that, then the contract just continues. And I mean, it could take many forms. It could take many forms. We can say, well, we may not negotiate one aspect of it, or we may, if we have an annual increase, we'll just continue with that. But unless there's a gap, an expiration in the contract, then that's it.
Well, actually, and I was going over the record of this local union in New York State. And we were going to the records of the last 20 years, and just to give you an example, in the last 20 years, this particular local union, their members filed 29 decertifications petitions in the last 20 years, and out of those 29, only twice the employees were able to successfully, get rid of the union. In 20 years, only 29, actually 17 of them, they withdraw the petition. So they didn't even have a chance to get to a vote. They did it 12 times, only twice in 20 years they were able to be successful in getting rid of the union. So I think the numbers speak for themselves in that particular local union, and I'm pretty sure it is the case across the country.
It's reflective
It is a reflection of what happened. That is very, very, very difficult. Yeah, you can do it legally, but it's very, very hard.
And as one last closing statement, gentlemen, let's speak about the scenario which seems to be pretty common in today's world, especially in the United States. Employee groups who have been unionized for years, if not decades, and the thought perhaps doesn't even come to mind, well, we could kick them out. So there seems to be a assumption where management becomes immune to the fact of having the union, and now the employees just feel like, you know what, this is just how it is.
Well, you know what, Dan, and I'll tell you what, once again, it goes back to the union. For instance, a lot of times when I was on the other side, and we used to teach locals how to go in and deal with their members and communicate with them. When a local, because a lot of times members say, well, what, the locals never do nothing for me. I don't have any problems. I don't have any issues. So what do I need a union for? I get treated good, good by management. The first thing the local was saying, once again, is all about a certain amount of mind control. Because once again, I'm going to go back to the same thing that I say, no matter what the situation is, organizing campaigns, corporate campaigns, strikes, other types of issues that happen within the workplace, but the union will always, if they're smart, they're going to, once again, they play this mind game constantly because they always have to be relevant. But it's always, well, listen, guess what? We haven't had, and they'll twist that. It's almost like a political campaign. They'll say, listen, we haven't had a grievance in 5 years. So the question is, the question is not, or the answer is not, well, what do I need a union for? It's the situation that the union would twist it to say is, listen, we're so good in protecting you, we prevent the problems and the issues from happening before they get to a point where you got to file a petition. So we're protecting you. The whole point of it is you don't have to file protections because we're always on the job. We're on the job making sure that the company adheres to the contract and the rules and regulations. So we're going to prevent the atmosphere to get to the point to where you have to file a petition because we are staying ahead of the curve. We're making sure that they don't violate your rights. So the proof that the union is effective and the union is relevant and strong is the fact that you don't have grievances.
Absolutely, and the message being, as Rick said, also is that if you get rid of us, then things are going to get worse and they're going to happen.
Yeah.
Ahmed, let's start with you first. In closing, let's first address the audience that already has a union. Those that have a union, their employees are unionized, and the idea potentially comes up where they call you and say, there may be a catalyst here for the potential of a decertification. What advice do you have for management as well as for their employees?
Well, the first thing is this: is prior to a petition being filed and accepted by the National Labor Relations Board, management cannot promote any activity. They cannot promote it. So that's very important to understand that. But if your workers come to you to ask you a factual question on their rights as far as the law, then you have the right to give them that information. Just here's the information, do what you want with it, don't promote it, don't encourage it, but you can give them the information. If it's to be, it's to be, and they're going to go ahead and act on it, but you have to stay out of it. Once a petition is filed, then you can actively, and it's accepted by the board, then you can actively campaign. But prior to that, you have to give you the facts, give you the information, but don't promote it.
Ahmed, let me go ahead and go to you then. For those non-union employees, which are a great majority of the clientele that you touch base with, they actually may have never experienced anything like this. And now for them to be faced with their uneducated staff who may come to them and say, you know what, I may want to try this, and if I don't like it, I could always remove the union. And so what advice do you have for management who are non-union, who are facing potentially organizing activity, and that organizing tactic as far as telling the employees there's always that chance that you could kick them out?
Well, then, besides, my first advice is to call Permanent Solutions. To be honest with you, or somebody who is who understands this. But then my advice is they need to train the managers to understand how the process of certification works, so that they can express that to the employees, because the employees need to understand the process, how difficult it is. But if the management doesn't know the process, then the employees are not going to know. Okay, so it's important to talk about the Constitution, which is going to have a clause always about being disloyal to the union, etc., and to understand how difficult it is, even if they can get the information to show the numbers, the real numbers of that particular labor union, local union, on how difficult it has been through years for all the members to try to get rid of the union. So that would be my advice to management.
You're right on it, man. But I will go on to tell you that once again, in whether it be in print or on webinars or on the podcast, I will always go back and say that once again, the biggest cause of union organizing campaigns is the breakdown of communications between frontline supervisors and the employers. Biggest cause. So if that's the biggest cause, then you have a problem with communicating with them. Okay, there's already a distrust and a disconnection. So now you have the supervisors going and starting to talk to them about these issues and these facts and the National Labor Relations Act. But with that disconnect being there, it's hard to communicate with them. You have to establish quickly, and this is why preventing issues from happening is so important. Maintain the quality of your relationship, because once again, you have to create the atmosphere within the work environment that for workers to even want to listen to what you have to say. Remember that the union's been in there, and their whole goal is to put the blinders on you and put the earplugs in you, so you don't see them, you don't hear them, and they are not important. They're not going to pay attention to you. So once again, there's a lot of things you can do afterwards. How effective it's going to be depends on the atmosphere that you can create. So you may have all the facts in the world, and you may have all the numbers and everything down packed, but they may not do you a bit of good, because the employees are not listening to you, because they don't trust you, because the union's been in there making you the worst enemy, and so it might be difficult. Once again, the best thing you can do is not wait for your house to start burning down before calling the fire department. Get in there and start doing those day-to-day things that you need to do. In fact, making staying union free part of your corporate DNA. So you never get to that point. Once again, once you get to that point, it's very hard to change the direction of the relationship, and especially if we get into this reduced election process, then expedited election process, then you have 5 to 15 days or whatever it's going to be. I'm telling you, it's going to be very hard to be able to get and communicate with them at all.
Well, gentlemen, I wish to thank both of you for your time and your professional experience and understanding on this subject matter. What a whirlwind of this event has been to be able to share in this roundtable for our audience today on this very specific and worthwhile topic. For many of our employers, many of our clients, the employees, and their employer, they certainly will learn a lot from your input. Again, to our audience, thank you for tuning in. On behalf of Rick Torres, Ahmed Santana, I am Dan Block, all with Permanent Solutions Labor Consultants. We appreciate your time to join us, and please look forward to joining us for future podcasts and webinars by reviewing on our website, PSLabor.com. Thank you and good night.